guys completely moved across the Pacific to have this job.
We did it. Yeah, it was a talk that I had with my husband, and I said, what do you think? And he's like, okay, first of all, like, sure, we're going to talk about it, but he's like, Hawaii? I'm like, I know. It could be worse. He's like, dude, this is awesome. And I'll never forget, his exact words were, this is your time. And it's not that he hasn't been there for me in the past to support me, but we really do try a 50-50. When he's on tour, I try to be home. When I'm shooting something, he tries to be home. We decided to start shooting things together, like Love is Blind and other stuff on Netflix. And so we're like, oh, this is working. This is a thing that would take our whole family out of the mainland and bring them very far away. And he was on board to support me. And I told the kids, and they were gung-ho, because they think that Hawaii is water slides and
playtime
smoothies.
All the time, yeah.
Even now, though, it's great. I ask them all the time, I'm like, are you happy here? And they're like, yeah. Aww. Like, they love it here. They're island babies. I didn't even realize I had island babies until I brought them here. And I'm like, I have island babies.
I love that you mentioned, obviously, the babies are island babies, and they started school here. How are they adjusting?
Kids are more resilient than adults, I do believe. I learned that on Top Chef Junior. Like, when we would have to send a kid home, I would go home, me and Curtis Stone, I'm like, I'm devastated. And the next day, the kid was like, hey, what's up? Do you mind signing my book for me? And I'm like, you're okay? He's like, yeah, I met new friends, and I got to learn to cook, to learn a new dish. Our kids, I think that this is extremely important for them. A lot of people don't have the luxury to be able to relocate, whether it's, you know, for work or financial, so I don't take that for granted, but we are definitely welcoming it with open arms. And I went to 8 different schools my first 9 years of school. That was a lot, and I wouldn't change anything in how it made me, but I can imagine how much stress that was on my parents now that I'm in it. But for my kids, it's great. It's great because I think that there's something that you can't teach your children, the whole leading by example versus like telling them. When they see different kids in different states and different cultures and different economic backgrounds, they understand that some things are different, but also a lot of things are the same. And so they understand empathy, they understand kindness, they understand the universal love. But it's great because I just want them to be in a more multicultural lifestyle. And I believe Hawaii, specifically Oahu, is that for our family, and I love it. I love that they just see kids as kids, and this is the norm. You know what I think? This is a crime scene. Jane Tennant, Special Agent in Charge, NCIS Hawaii.
What do they think of Mom's new job? When you tell them maybe about like the stunts that you're doing or some of the action, what do they think? Are you the cool mom?
It's funny because Camden probably grasps it and understands it the most in terms of like, oh, you're on TV. I'll never forget when he first went to school and he was in kindergarten, someone's like, I saw your mom, or I saw your dad. I mean, Nick was on The Masked Singer. Every kid knows that show. They're like, your dad is Piglet. But what's been interesting is my 6-year-old. So Brooklyn is my daughter, boy, girl, boy. And I took her to my very first stunt session. Nick had the 2 boys and I took her because we try not to leave all 3 with one, you know, if they're solo. And I said, I'll take her. It's no big deal. You can have the boys and you guys go. They went to the skate park. And what I didn't realize was somebody texted me and they're like, you might have a little stunty on your hands. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm exposing her to, it was my first fight scene. So she saw me doing the fake punches, doing, you know, the gun work, doing all of this. And she just sat there. I brought her crayons and paper, but she just sat there watching me. Then when I showed her the trailer, she just sat there with these like, it was the most proud mom moment. I don't want to say stars in her eyes because that sounds really, but when it was over, I'm like, B, what do you think? And she was like I could tell she had this, that's my mom moment. You know what I mean? Phoenix is 4. He was like, hey, do we have a snack? And Cam was like, that's really cool. He actually liked more of the camera work and the stunts and all that. She just saw me and she was like, yes. And that, look, I want to do it for both of my, you know, for my boys and my daughter. But it was a really cool moment that my daughter could see her mom being a badass.
I thought this was just going to be a job, but I've realized that it's a lot more.
We're practically family here.
And it's just the way I